The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming, led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. And, well, gold got close to $13.50 and then pulled back instantly. Last Friday, down for the day. Today, it's Monday. It's June 17th. We're looking at gold being down $2.90 the ounce, right around $13.38. Silver, $14.81, still sub $15. Well, what is going on with the market? Why such antipathy, disinterest, and apathy towards the gold sector? Well, probably the answer is found in the broader economy at large, but we've got a guest on now. He's been investing in gold explorers and developers for 20 years, done VC, startup in the space. Now he's focusing on Nevada, and he likes the sector in spite of it being perhaps given up for dead by the broader market. Talking about Luke Norman. Luke, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
And great. Thank you for having me today, Kerry.
Hey, so we got this crazy economy going on where stock markets just seem headed towards infinity, and we've got cannabis stocks going crazy, Bitcoin going crazy. What's your take on the broader market and the economy in general?
I think that, we've had a new group of investors that over the past decade have actually worked and earned and built themselves into a position of having a little bit of enough excess capital to want to invest into primarily technologies, but then we've seen that also spread across into the marijuana space, the hemp CBD products, and of course the bit currencies, and that's our trusty millennial group. So it's their first soiree into capital market, and what they've grown up with is obviously technology primarily. They've grown up in the fastest moving technological advancements ever seen in humanity. They feel very comfortable investing in those sort of spaces. Likewise, they've experienced essentially the end of prohibition in the marijuana space, and I think they feel that it's a good industry to be invested in. So we've seen massive amounts of capital from a retail perspective head into those sectors, and it's been to the chagrin of gold. And I think there's actually a little more to it than that. Is traditionally there's been a lot of capital through the metals mining space that's been raised and generated through promotion and promoters and venture capitalists such as myself having to spend money marketing these junior mining opportunities. A lot of those people that were traditionally in this space are focusing on marketing marijuana companies or currency plays that they're working on right now. And the gold story has largely just been left to rest. Meanwhile, the metals price itself, gold, over the last 4 or 5 years has just been in this very, very tight, I think, trading range, sort of a $12.50 to $13.50 type pocket that looks like a great consolidation pattern. So the future for gold looks good. It's just a bit of a yawn to the current investment crowd. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey, so what do you think of the prospects for the cannabis stocks? I mean, there is no limit to cannabis supply. There has to be a limit to demand, because eventually if every man, woman, and child on the planet is stoned, then you can't sell any more. other than to keep them going. So, but the point is ease of entry. Anybody can grow a plant. Maybe some people are better at it than others, but there's a lot of money chasing what could be a limited opportunity.
Well, first you've got to look at the mentality of the investment community as it stands today. You've got these multi-$100 billion market cap companies out there trading at price to earnings ratios that we have never, ever experienced in history. So gone are the days of a business actually generating a certain amount of profit is reflected back into the valuation of that company. Because people think that exponential growth is the new reality, which is nonsensical from my viewpoint, but that's fine. What's the old saying? The market's never wrong.
Yeah.
So that viewpoint is also carried across, I believe, into the marijuana space, because I don't think, Gary, we're going to find every man, woman, and child on the face of the planet wanting to be high on marijuana.
I hope not. Not all the time, anyway. Recreationally, probably okay, but people who are chronically abusing any substance are not your most productive members of society. No. I remember my assistant once telling this guy who did my YouTubes and stuff, saying, Andrew, you're not going to be a marijuana success story. And, that always stuck with me. So it's like alcohol, right? In moderation, everything's good in moderation. Absolutely. Except moderation, right?
Well, I mean, what I've experienced personally amongst my own friendship group is about 2 years ago, I really start to be more prevalent in social situations. So there would be, people would have marijuana out openly. There would be the edibles, bowls of edibles around, and it immediately became part of our social network. And personally, I didn't partake because I just do not enjoy the stuff there, and that's fine. There's people like that. Yeah. But what I found, fast forward 2 years later, and it's not out there. The bowls of edibles aren't out there. People aren't bothering putting out the joints and different things on the table because people have just, it's not the ideal social drug that they thought it might be. The edibles they've found are very hard to administer the right dosages. So people are having extremely different experiences from them. And so it's completely washed out, at least out of my social network. So I'm wondering if that's not happening all over the place. And my big viewpoint on the marijuana space is there has been a very well-managed, well-run black marketplace that has essentially ensured that every marijuana user in North America for the last 50 years has had access to said marijuana. So that production supply chain is still fully in play. Nothing has stopped, and the black market is still producing. Yeah. Now you've got billions of dollars poured into these new legal marijuana producers, and so that oversupply and that overproduction is obviously going to just commoditize the weed and the product, and those prices are going to be completely smashed. And as you and I discussed just briefly before we started this interview, ultimately I think it'll be the retailers that will prevail through it, and the rest of the product and that supply chain will be forced into very low margin type situations. And I don't think at the end of the day, the demand is going to be exponentially growing throughout society. I just don't see marijuana as that kind of drug that everyone wants to be in a social environment and high on weed.
No, I mean, when I was in college, high school, it was really big. Most of the people I knew might have done it periodically after that, but their use really dropped off dramatically. And I think it's a cycle in society, cycle in youth. And now that there's no taboo about it, like nobody cares. It's like you taking a drink from your parents' liquor cabinet. It's just not that big a deal anymore. So that gets rid of some of the mystique. So eventually there's going to be this fallout in the sector, in the cannabis sector. We can see it coming from a mile away. It might take a while because there's a bunch of states legalizing. Massachusetts just legalized. Michigan, we're going to get in the States anyway. In Canada, where you are, everything is legal. It was legalized October 17th or 18th of last year. So it's just a passing fancy, another trend, another newbie kind of trend in investing. Same thing with Bitcoin. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, but cryptocurrencies, nobody really understands them properly.
No,
it's
exactly
a lot of ignorance.
I would give more potential to a burgeoning, a growing crypto marketplace, and I'm not an investor in that space at all. I would put higher probability that that'll be a more successful long-term industry than the marijuana industry will be, from a startup and stock market type investment approach to that said industry. There is far too many marijuana companies. There is far too much malinvestment into that space right now, and that capital, 95+% of it is going to burn up, as as we might say. Whereby I could see an evolution of bitcoins and cryptocurrencies to whereby they might become more established and understood, or better understood, and maybe people would start to see them as a proxy of a gold type investment. Sure, it's a possibility. Not for me. It doesn't interest me. I've seen too many of these cyber crimes already, where these banks have been wiped out and there's your investment gone. So in the gold space, I've always believed too, there's a great segue here. Far too many people, their gold investment is a piece of paper or a certificate. So there's never a call on that gold. So the gold never has to get produced. And there's just somebody in the background making money off a trade that never actually truly has any impact on the gold space. So physical gold, I like physical assets. I don't believe that we're ever going to stare down the end of some kind of complete shutdown of banks. But that's a possibility. And having physical gold in hand or on hand, or whether it even be potentially in your bank vault, at your bank in a safety deposit box or whatever, just seems far more appealing to me than some noughts and dots on a somewhere out in the interweb.
Interwebs, yeah. Well, you know what I say, Luke. When Bitcoin is outlawed, only outlaws will own Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely. Well, that was the beginnings of it. Essentially, was a dark web currency, so that people could essentially be not traced by government. So.
Yeah, and now they've gotten rid of that. Everybody who comes out with a new thing in the crypto space, it's all going to be traceable. It's all going to be government compliant. So, why not just carry cash? Why not just have a bank account? Because better off. At least when your money gets stolen out of the bank, there's insurance, and the bank, when it happens cybercrime, the bank puts your money back in there eventually. But with a cryptocurrency, when it gets ripped off, you have zero place to go. You have no ability.
Absolutely.
There's no accountability.
A recent example in New Zealand, I think it was $150 million. All these people's money completely gone, never to be returned.
Yeah. Instant theft. And there's no accountability. But there's an audit trail. Yeah, go find these criminals. They could have it transferred to 100 different banks throughout the world by the time you even realize that your account was robbed, that it was hacked. So you're dead. And really, you can protect yourself. There are ways you can create your own node in Bitcoin, but the average person doesn't want to be in the business of creating their own node just to hold their money. And enough of these stories hit, Luke, and then the volatility of it makes it unreliable as a medium of exchange. Because the one thing, $1 US or Canadian, they might be losing 5% a year in value, but it's a steady thing, and that value is pretty uniform. It's pretty stable, even if it is losing money over time. But in this stuff, Bitcoin was just at $3,200 6 months ago, and now it's at $9,300, and that's not the attribute that you want of a global currency. I think it'll crash again, but I could be wrong. It did make a new high today.
Well, yeah, but you're going to have volatility. That's the problem. Like you're speaking of that. Okay, great. So somebody buys in now at $92, $93, $9,400, and when it corrects back down and retests its old lows, well, not its old lows, because old lows are 0.0001 of a penny.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's current real-time lows, but it's kind of scary too when you look at it from that regard. I mean, when's the last time an ounce of gold was 0.0001 of a penny? Well, never. It was relative to everything that you purchased today. The price of gold is pretty much held in there, possibly is now valued much lower in terms of how many ounces of gold it might take to purchase a home in the 30s, for example, 40s compared to what it would cost you now in the 2010s. I can't give you those ratios. I apologize.
I can give them to you. I actually know them. A U.S. dime, U.S. pre-1965 dime, that's 10 cents. So it's 10 cents forever. I mean, probably going back to the 1800s. That's now worth a little bit more than $1. All right. A quarter, 25-cent piece U.S. pre-1965 is now worth $2.70 per coin. So almost 11 times. It's a major, but in terms of purchasing power, used to be, I remember when I was a kid, my father would buy gas 19-20 cents a gallon. So 2 dimes would buy you roughly almost a gallon now. So, and in fact, when silver was really at its peak, it actually had exceeded its purchasing power had increased, but that's not unusual for silver to pull back. Gold, much more stable.
Which silver peak, by the way? Are we talking the silver peak from the Hunt brothers?
The silver
peak
80s? From 2011, when it hit almost the same
45.
price. Yeah. So.
And that's when Eric Sprott listed as. I was actually at the New York Stock Exchange that day because my company was getting listed at the time. Gold Standard. We were going through the process, and Eric Sprott was there with his new Sprott Silver ETF.
I remember
launch day, and I think that was literally the top,
the peak. Benjamin Graham said it best: when the elevator operator and the boot black, which is a shoe shine person, is giving you stock tips, it's time to run for the exits. And when you start seeing it, those are things that are indicative of a peak. But we're way, way far from the peak in the sector now. Company you're involved with now, U.S. Gold Corp, USAU. Suggest everybody take a look at it in the interest of fair disclosure. I own shares in the company. I'm not like by any stretch a major shareholder, but I have a nice holding. I mean, that company, it's the poster child for value play, undervalued, tangible asset stock. Yeah,
I've got to agree with you wholeheartedly. We're first and foremost, we have 2 projects that are our sort of key projects. One is Keystone, which is in Nevada, very close to the Cortez Hills mine and cluster of deposits, which are owned by Barrick. And we think we're in a very, very prospective backdrop that is similar to, well, in fact, almost identical to the Cortez geological setting and backdrop. So we think that we have a multitude of gold deposits within that project that could definitely look very, very similar to the Cortez Hills project. And then we have an established copper gold deposit in Wyoming, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which has got a lot of local support behind it. It's a beauty deposit, and we're looking to advance and develop that either alone or with some partners. And then we've been working on a few other items in the background that we think hopefully will be hitting the press pretty soon here in the next coming weeks and months that will really show the investment community within the mining space that we're a serious company and we're looking to be a real game changer in the U.S.
Hey, and the permitting is moving ahead on Ryan Zinke, former Interior Secretary. We had him on a webcast recently. He's a director now, and he's spearheading the licensing or assisting with the licensing permitting aspects of the project. And, this project is proven, right? The metal is sitting there. The copper is in the ground. The gold's in the ground. We know it. And there's not much left to chance. It's just now moving ahead to the final.
Yeah, and the real value proposition for us as investors right now is in advancing those ounces rather than just trying to establish more and more, because I think ultimately, if we can prove that there's conceivably, we can put this into production and create a good economic case to do so, that will add a lot of value to those ounces in situ. So in situ meaning those gold ounces right now are sitting in the ground. Our market capitalization for the company is not sitting in front of a screen right now today, Kerry, but let's put it at around $20 million US. With a deposit like Copper King sitting there, our in situ valuation is well under $10 an ounce, in the ground. Well, if we can show that we can advance this project on and through feasibility into production, value of those ounces obviously increases dramatically. So it reflects value to the company. And just like with moving over to Keystone now, what Discovery would do for us at Keystone is the exact same thing. It would give us a lot more value, obviously, for Keystone, but it would actually add value to the ounces in the ground in our Copper King asset, believe it or not, because it would show that our value is now increasing. Our likelihood of being able to raise the necessary capital to advance the project is more realistic. So it would create kind of a compounding value metric.
So U.S. Gold Corp, and I should say the symbol is USAU, which is a great stock symbol, great branding there. The share structure and, the capitalization of the company, it kind of flies in the face of everything that we see in the precious metals gold sector. Really remarkable.
Yeah, we had a very strong focus on wanting to keep the share structure very tight. The reason being is I'm a shareholder. The people whom are listening today, we are hoping become shareholders. I want to see that value metric in my stock react to the price of gold. I want to see it react to a discovery at Keystone. I want to see it react to us advancing Copper King. And the only way you can do that is if you don't have this blown up share structure. So unfortunately, at my previous company, Gold Standard, because we had so much dilution through the exploration phases of that company, you end up with several 100 million shares out. Well, now you just become a function of increased market capitalization, but on a per share basis, you don't see the reward. And it's a high risk industry. We want to see reward as shareholders. So with sub 20 million shares out right now, anything that we manage to achieve on this upcoming drill phase at Keystone, for example, or as we advance Copper King with Mr. Zanke's help, we are going to see that as shareholders reflected very quickly when you have a tight share structure versus a heavily diluted one.
It really gives you leverage for the price of gold. It really does. And
yes, it does.
The more leverage, the better your returns are going to be. This could be an amazing stock. One of those ones that you look back on, and we all have them, let's face it, you look back and you say, if only, or why didn't I buy more, or why didn't I hold on to it? Because I knew it was going to take off, but it didn't. And look, if you think that the price of gold currently is fair and that's where it can't go any more than that, well, that's one thing. But, look, it just seems inevitable that a lot of these companies, and U.S. Gold Corp among them, are really going to outperform in the future because they've been so beaten down for so long, Luke.
Yeah, and there's also a little bit of insecurity out there right now, given the merging of Newmont and Barrick in their Nevada assets. And I think that's creating a lot of confusion for people as to what that means for the future of Nevada in particular, because there was always competitive tension in Nevada with Newmont and Barrick vying and jockeying for position in projects. None more clearly shows that than the Long Canyon purchase by Newmont when Frontier Gold were taken out for $2.3 billion, what has now become a 125,000 ounce per annum producer. That kind of competitive tension is essentially, for now, gone. And of course, add to that Gold Corp and Newmont are teamed up, and globally, internationally with gold assets. You've removed the potential of a gold corp showing up in Nevada. So it's been a very confusing time, I think, for investors who feel that, okay, well, without this competitive tension in Nevada assets aren't going to be acquired and advanced by these mining companies. I personally see it as a massive door swung open to these producers, global producers, especially the South Africans, for example, who really need some jurisdictional safety akin to in Nevada. So Nevada is the best place to produce gold on the planet. We know that because the two biggest gold producers on the planet are focused in Nevada. Yeah. The fact that they've just merged to try and create this air of double the ounces within one company and much larger production really is just a smokescreen to the fact that gold and gold discoveries are still becoming less and less common every year. You're seeing fewer and fewer big gold deposits discovered every year. And as such, these guys need to be able to show on their bottom line that somehow their ounces per share are increasing. But the reality is this is just a very short-term smoke and mirror show that's not going to have any impact on discoveries in Nevada. In fact, we need a lot more gold discoveries, especially if people start calling for physical gold instead of certificate gold. But that's just a little side note there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And when you really see it, these big producers, the majors, they've contracted out all of their exploration. They may claim to have exploration departments, but they really don't. And they'd much rather buy somebody else than find it on their own. And I guess that's the model that works for them.
That's been the model. And, I'm going to give you one little example of actually that not being the case, which is Barrick, which is our neighbor, of course. So, again, just to remind everyone that Keystone, our sort of flagship exploration asset, is about 10 miles across the valley from Cortez Hills, which is Barrick's main production mine on the planet. That's Barrick's number one asset. And they have had in excess of 20 to 30 drills drilling on there now for the last 8 or 9 years. And they've found the deposits I know of so far is 5 additional projects, or 5 additional gold mines, on top of the Cortez Hills actual mine that's in production right now. And they continue to make discoveries there. And the reason I care is because it's really encouraging to me when I have an identically situated, geologically backdrop project like Keystone, to see them continue to make new discoveries, 10, 15 years into the project shows me that, look, we're a 2-year-old company this summer. The work we've done on Keystone has led us to some really key spots where we think now we've just been permitted in September of last year and allowed to go and access some of these areas. I think our future is very bright. But yeah, looking at Barrick next door and a non-traditional explorer, with the amount of effort and money and time they've been putting into exploring that project has been a bit outside of the box for a major, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, you couldn't pick a better location as far as that goes. And the majors, they've got their own problems here, major problems, because like you say, declining resources, declining reserves, ounces in the ground. It's inevitable. So somebody's got to start finding the metal someplace so they've got future production. It's really that simple. And agreed. And then, Gary, again, mark my words, there will be a new entrant into Nevada within the next 18 to 24 months. Somebody's going to go and pick up the shortfall, because if Barrick and Newmont truly believe that by merging their assets and their efforts, it's going to somehow put people off of coming into that state, it's certainly not going to be the case. For sure. Well, hey, Luke, it's been great talking to you, catching up, and you're anxious to see what happens here, and we'll be watching these markets closely. We will definitely be talking to you again in the near future. Any questions, comments, email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. We answer everything. And Luke, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Kerry, and thanks for your time.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.